We can go ahead and get started.
All right, you want to pull up the agenda, Justin?
Yes.
All right, so welcome everybody. First item on the agenda is welcome and introduction. So Justin, could you please read the roll?
Yes. Okay, so MassDOT Acting Secretary and CEO Jamie Tesler.
Steve Wolf representing him.
Okay. MassDOT Highway Administrator Jonathan Gulliver. I don't see Frank.
I don't see Frank. I can represent him until Frank gets here.
Okay. NMCOG Chair Andrew Delaurier.
Here.
Okay. NMCOG MPO Rep Pat Wojcik.
Here.
Okay. LRTA Chair Tom Baumel.
Here.
LRTA MPO Rep Kevin O'Connor is in St. Thomas.
I like, Justin, how you had him note where he was, just so it's in the record.
He would probably want it.
I know.
And last is Lowell City Councilor Dan Rourke. And he's not here. Okay, that's it, Steve.
We're good?
Yep, sorry, I'm
All
just
right.
letting people in.
I'm here, Justin, thanks.
Okay, Frank's taking over for Connie.
Okay. All right, so move on to agenda item 2. It's approval of the March 24th minutes. When you make a motion second, please identify yourself and your affiliation. So can I get a motion second to approve those minutes?
Go move Tom Baumel.
Second, Pat Wojcik.
All right, any questions or corrections to those minutes? Seeing none, Justin, you want to read the roll, please?
Yes. Steve Wolfle,
Yes.
Frank Szczynski,
Yes,
Andrew Delaurier,
Yes.
Pat Wojcik,
Yes.
and Tom Baumel.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the next agenda, which is status report on projects under design construction. Connie?
Yes, that's me. So the Andover Tewksbury Highway Lighting System rehabilitation and repair at 93 and 495 was advertised on March 27th. Bids are due May 11th, 2021. The other change is the resurfacing on 495 in Chelmsford, which is listed as Chelmsford, Medford, and Somerville and Stoneham. Those bids were open. Construction has begun. Completion date is August 22nd, 2023. We're still watching Dunstable Main Street, which is at 100% design with an add date of September 25th, 2021. And Tewksbury resurfacing on Route 38, those 100% are supposed to be in July or so. The advertising date is September 11th, 2021. Those are our 2021 projects. Other than that, I don't have much in the way of changes on all the other projects that are on the tip. Some of the ad dates have been adjusted in anticipation of programming on the next version of the tip. And other than that, I don't have anything else to report, but I will take questions if anyone has them.
Yes, does anyone have any questions for Connie about these projects or any other ones?
Connie, do you have any specific updates on the Dunstable project? I haven't heard anything recently. And
The
I know
100%
it's not your
design.
district.
100% came in February. So they should be finishing up the review of those, and they should be moving on to final design. Other than that, I don't have any other updates.
Okay.
All right, anyone else? All right, seeing none, thanks, Connie. We will move on to agenda item 4, which is the open forum. Any members of the public would like to address the MPO today? I don't see anyone. Justin, do you see anyone?
Nope, I don't see anyone.
All right, so we'll move on to agenda item 5, which is the federal fiscal year 2022 UPWP development. Justin.
Okay. So, quick update on UPWP development. So UPWP, Unified Planning Work Program, essentially lists all of the activities carried out by NPO staff during the next federal fiscal year, which begins October 1st, runs through the end of September 2022. It's federally funded, so it includes planning funds from Federal Highway. It includes transit planning funds through the 5303 program from FTA, as well as a 5307 program planning funds to the LRTA, where they contract with NMCOG to carry out their planning activities. So you see that in the last column. So we add all that up. The budget is $959,890 for all activities in the next federal fiscal year. And if you recall, I talked about this back in February, but to remind everybody, this represents a decrease about $27,000 or 3% of our overall available funding for next year when you're comparing to our current UPWP budget. So with that in mind, what we try to do is kind of a across the board 3% reduction. It didn't quite come out to 3% for all of them, but that was the ideal goal with some of these new budgets for each of the tasks listed here. So it was generally 3% reduction for each task. Excuse me. So just to go through it quickly, the first section you see here represents tasks that support efforts required for coordination of transportation activities between the Northern Middlesex NPO with other NPOs within the Boston urbanized area, within the Nashua urbanized area. Our member communities, coordination with member communities, coordination with other regional, state, and federal agencies. So this includes our work with development of the UPWP, which is what we're talking about right now. It includes, excuse me, Brian keeps trying to come in. It includes our work with the TIP, development of the TIP, and monitoring of all those projects, and we'll talk about that today as well. It includes our public participation efforts, and as well as Title VI work. So the second section represents more of a data collection effort. Includes our traffic counting, surveillance of transit, GIS work. We've also included performance measures as part of that section as well. And we've done a lot of performance measure work over the past few years. So the third section, that gets into more of our systems management activities like pavement management, congestion management, safety and security, bicycle and pedestrian planning, freight planning, stormwater management, things of that nature. We've also included year 2 of our TIP project review study. And that's something where we started looking back at completed TIP projects and comparing conditions in kind of a before and after type study. So we're in year 1 of that right now, and we're currently working on a review of 2 projects. One's Minance Corner in Westford, and the other is East Street at Livingston Street in Tewksbury. And we should have that completed fairly soon and presented to the NPO sometime this spring. So the fourth section of the UPWP includes our transit planning task, as well as our coordination between transportation and economic development in the region. So that's kind of a preliminary look at our UPWP activities. Each has a corresponding budget. What I'd like to do today is just basically just get the NPO to sign off on using this as the approach in development of our UPWP document. And at that point, we start developing the report, and we should have a draft ready for you by next month's meeting.
All right, anyone have any questions for Justin or feedback, or are people, members generally happy with what Justin just went over? So he's good to go putting the document together? Anyone?
I just have one question, Justin, on
Okay.
on a tip project review. I remember about a year or so ago, we were gonna, and maybe that's what prompted this. We said we were gonna do that type of review. Is that also gonna include how much it costs and how much it might have been over or under budget?
We can include that. It's still an ongoing type thing, but if you'd like to, we could take a look at that. We're going to put in there the amount it did cost. So we can look and see if it went over budget or how it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if it went over, we would probably know about that, right? Because we'd have to approve if it's significantly over, right?
Yeah, if it's significantly over, we'd have to make some changes to the tip.
All right, thanks.
Right,
Other than
go
that,
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Justin.
I just saw Derek raise his hand.
All right, Derek, go ahead.
Yeah. Did any change happen to local technical assistance from last year?
As far as what?
The cost, I guess. I just recall a conversation. I wasn't sure if that was changing at all.
It went, it dropped by a little bit, but that's just because everything
Like
else
all the others.
dropped. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it dropped maybe $1,000 or so from last year. I'd have to look it up.
I can look at this current one too. I just thought I'd ask. Thanks.
Yep. But
Right.
it's still the same general activities.
All right, anyone else have any questions for Justin? I don't see any, so Justin, I think you have the direction you need to go forward.
So everyone is fine with this?
Yep, I think so.
Okay, I don't hear any complaints, so, okay, good.
All right, next item on the agenda is agenda item 6, which is federal fiscal year 2022 to 2026 tip development. This is actually, we're going to vote on this today, presumably. Go ahead, Justin.
Okay. So I'm probably going to jump around this executive summary here a little bit, and feel free to stop me along the way if there's any questions. So at our last meeting, we went over scenarios for programming this tip, and based on that meeting, we decided on scenario 4, which included the Billerica, Black Valley, Boston Road Street project, and the first year Street improvement project in federal fiscal year 2020. So I wanted to go over basically some of the elements that are included in the tip before I go through and confirm these are the projects included. So because the tip programs federal transportation dollars, it's got to adhere to federal regulations, and one of those guidelines is that it needs to include performance-based planning effort, which the NPO has been involved with for years now. So you'll see in this tip, taking a look at each project programmed and categorize them based on performance category. So each of the performance measures and targets that the NPO has adopted over the past few years, they're included in the report, and things like safety, bridge and pavement conditions, system performance, such as air quality, travel time, reliability, targets set in the LRTA's transit asset management plan, and their recently adopted public transportation agency safety plan. So things of that nature, and they're all included. A discussion that's all included in the tip. And this performance measure work is also leads into sort of the prioritization efforts as we evaluate projects for inclusion and programming in the tip. So we have a discussion of how the NPO scores project based on their their impact on items such as safety, such as infrastructure condition, as well as economic, social, environmental impacts, things of that nature. And you see that there on the screen. And that's how we give each project a score, and it's used in the prioritization of projects. And of course, this is we talked about this when we were developing the scenarios, and of course, any kind of evaluation, we have to look at project readiness. Of course, we have to look at financial constraint, because the project isn't going to be ready. We're not going to program it in the first year of the TIP, no matter how it scores. So, and of course, we have to stay financially constrained within our available regional targets, and doing that is how we come to program the TIP. So if you look here at the TIP financial plan, so these two tables here, the first one is the highway, the second is the transit. First, taking a look at the highway side, we want to prove that we're not spending more than we're allocated. So you'll see in this table one here, the first column is our regional target. The second column shows the amount we have programmed. The third column is our financial constraint. It's saying this is how much we have left over in our regional target. So anything 0 and above shows we're not spending more than we're allocated. So financial constraint. And just to round out the table, the next column are the projects that are programmed using statewide funding, statewide programs. And the last column is the total amount programmed for targets and for state projects for each year. And that comes out to about $68.7 million over the 5 years of the TIP. So the next table, it shows transit constraint, and I want to thank Allie and Dave Bradley from the LRTA for their assistance on this. Transit's a little different than highway, and that funds can be carried over from year to year. So you see a running total of available funds for each year of the TIP. So if you look at this first row in the last column, you're starting out with $16.7 million that you can carry over. So taking a look at each year, you really see that the amount that we program is actually larger than the 5307 apportionment to the LRTA, but carryover. If you look at carryover, it keeps everything financially constrained. So this basically running total is your financial constraint. And of course, this is a live document and it will change. But at this point, this is how we show financial constraint on the transit side. And I want to point out, I'll pull over to this next page here. Just in comparison between the highway and the transit spending, they're fairly equal. 68 million on the highway side, 77 million on the transit side. The figure you see here on the screen, that refers the spending, it sort of categorizes it by RTP funding program. So basically, as part of our long range plan, every TIP project in here has been identified and categorized by a spending program. That's the approach that we had taken when we were developing the long range plan back in 2020. So we just identify the TIP projects and put them in each and categorize them by program. So I need to add this to the executive summary. I haven't really. I think I have the full TIP. I can just pull it up. But the NPO also reports on air quality conformity. The TIP basically shows greenhouse gas impacts for each project in order to allocate. So in order to allocate any kind of CMAQ funding for a project, it's got to show an improvement or reduction of greenhouse gases. So all of our projects that are included in the TIP, they're evaluated based on the available data that we had at the time we were doing the analysis. So each project shows either a qualitative or a quantitative impact on air quality. And this is how we evaluate achievement of any kind of performance goals, our performance targets that are adopted by the NPO and that are adopted by the state. So I'll add that to the executive summary. It's just not included in there. So going back, I just want to say a few words about regional equity. So it's really important to show how we spend our funds throughout the region. So in an effort to show how funding is spent, we took a look at how we spent money in environmental justice areas. We focused on high minority population areas or low income populations, and these were mapped with our TIP projects. And we actually took a kind of a 10-year look back. So we went back to 2012, and so we had a 10-year back from the first year of this next TIP. So we looked at those projects, and we included this year this TIP that's currently under development to show basically how we're spending our funds and where we're spending our funds, and looking at the analysis, 29 of the 44 total TIP projects program between 2012 and 26 that were located in environmental justice areas, were located in minority or low income, or a combination of both. And that's about 64% of our projects. Total spending came out to about 54% of the total amount spent were located in environmental justice areas. So let's stop there before we just confirm all of the different projects. Are there any questions on that?
Hey, Justin, do you know how that compares to other other regions?
I don't. Steve or Derek, do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know about you, Derek or Brian, but it's certainly something we could look at just if folks are interested, right, Brian? You did let Brian in, right, Justin?
He's been coming and going.
Yeah. What's that, Steve? Can you repeat that?
There he is.
One of the members asked whether or not Justin just went over how many other projects are in environmental justice neighborhoods or communities. And one of the members asked, do we know how that compares against others? I don't know off the top of my head, but we could certainly look at it.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, we run that analysis on, the CIP every single year as well. So yeah, I mean, we could certainly do a cross comparison to see how the region stacks up. Yep.
I'm just curious because I think obviously there's some regions that have probably greater opportunities for this than others, given that we have gateway communities in our region.
Right.
There's greater opportunity, which is good. I think this is, I'm glad we have that look back period. So we have a sort of, it'd be interesting, Justin, maybe just for maybe NMCOG's only information to see how this ebbs and flows over those 10 years. It'd be great to see if we saw growth in the amount of impact we put towards those areas, but just maybe I'm the only one curious there.
Yeah, Andrew, I think it's a really good first step that
Oh yeah, sure.
the regions have taken, and we've taken it. This conversation is so much more nuanced because you can make the case that a project is not in the EJ area, yet it does benefit an EJ area. And then you can also make the case the other way around too, right? So it's not, very black and white, but this is a very, it's a good first step, and we can certainly make that comparison just on the geographic piece alone. We have done some efforts of incorporating accessibility observatory data in our GIS layers that of course are part of all project initiation and stuff like that, and assessing health impacts, and all of that is relative to this conversation. So
no, I'm glad we're challenging ourselves. In my own family's history, my dad likes to point out where the highway went through certain neighborhoods versus other neighborhoods, but that's a long time ago. But I'm glad we're challenging ourselves with this kind of analysis. It's good work, Justin.
All right, other questions for Justin before he goes into the project specific stuff? All right, Justin, I think you can go ahead.
Okay. So I wanted to just go through and confirm everything before we make a vote to release this tip for public comment. On the highway side, just 2022, we've got 2 bridge projects in Westford, the rehab of Beaverbrook Road, Beaverbrook Road Bridge over the Beaverbrook, and replacement of the Stony Brook Road Bridge over the Stony Brook. In Dracut, we have the Nashua Road Improvement Project. And in Billerica, we have the first year of the Boston Road Rehabilitation Project, which is programmed over 2 years, basically because of its cost and construction schedule. So that leads into 2023. That Billerica project takes up most of our targets. Leaves 2023 leaves about $400,000 unprogrammed. In addition, there's 2 statewide program projects: the intersection improvements on Route 38 in Tewksbury and Lowell, and the Safe Routes to School project in Dracut at George Inglesby Elementary School. So 2022 fully spent, 2023 $400,000 left unprogrammed, probably going to get eaten up at some point. But in 2024, let me move it down a little bit here so you can see the in Westford, we have the rehabilitation of Boston Road. That's in our target. It leaves about $800,000 currently available for that year. In addition, outside of the targets, we're programming the Yankee Doodle Bike Path Phase 1 construction in Billerica. In 2025, we're programming reconstruction related work on VFW Highway in our target funds. Currently about $1.1 million unprogrammed in that year. The Pawtucket Falls Overlook project has been moved from 2022, is now being programmed in 2025. And we've had a few meetings about that recently, talking about scope of that project. But that's a statewide bicycle and pedestrian project using CMAQ funds outside of our regional target. And in 2026, I mentioned this quickly earlier, we went with the scenario 4 to move forward with programming of the Billerica Boston Road, Glad Valley, Lexington Street intersection improvement project, and the first year of the Chelmsford Street improvement project in Chelmsford, which needs to be programmed over 2 years of the TIP. And with those 2 projects, 2026 has been fully programmed. So on the transit side, this list is basically generated from LRTA's capital investment plan provided to us by MassDOT Rail and Transit. And I will go through every project on this, but I want to point out that each year includes general purchase of maintenance items to keep the fleet running, operating assistance to the LRTA, projects associated with keeping the Gallagher Terminal and North Billerica Station up and running, and the planning assistance contract with NMCOG we talked about in the UPWP discussion, and generally purchasing of replacement buses and vans and vehicles to replace the aging fleet. So you'll see these items in basically every year between 2022 and 2026. But I want to just highlight a few of the projects in each year. So in 2022, the LRTA will be making the purchase of the automatic passenger counters and the replacement of bus lifts and the purchase of 4 cutaway vans. And if you recall, we amended our current TIP to program the federal portion of each of these projects in 2021. The actual purchase of these will still occur in 2022, and the state match for these projects will be in 2022. So it's still listed in the tip that is under development. So moving to 2023, just want to highlight that the LRTA plans to replace their fueling station at Hale Street, and as well as replacing 2 hybrid buses. In 2024, 1 hybrid bus will be replaced, as well as a new street sweeper for maintenance type work. In 2025, there were no purchase of buses, but it's mainly maintenance and operating assistance and planning in that year. And finally, the last year of the tip. Well, one of the highlights is the LRTA is looking to replace, I believe it's, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's 6 buses with either hybrids or electrics, and they're currently monitoring a study done by the state looking at electric bus operations. And once that study is complete, they're gonna they'll make the decision of whether or not to purchase hybrids or purchase electric buses. And if you see the last 2 lines here, if they're going to go with hybrids, the cost is going to be $4.8 million for replacement. If they go with electric buses, they'll have to purchase infrastructure to go along with that. So in addition to the 4.8 million, they'll be adding another $2.5 million for that work. So it would be more like $7.5 million if they go with electric buses. So that's the tip as presented. If there's any questions you have on any of the projects, we're basically just here to consider releasing this document for a 21-day public comment period.
All right, thanks, Justin. So does anyone have any questions for Justin on the highway side of the transit side before we call for a motion in a second to put this out for public comment? I don't see anyone, Justin, you?
No.
All right, would someone like to make a motion to release the whole tip, the roadway transit and statewide items with the text that Justin has produced and put out for public 21-day public comment period?
I'll make that motion, Steve.
All right,
I'll
thank you.
second it.
Andrew Delore.
I'll second it, Tom Bommel.
All right, any questions? Seeing none. Justin, you want to read the roll?
Sure. Steve Wolfle,
Yes.
Frank Szynski,
Yes.
Andrew Delarier,
Yes.
Pat Wojcik,
Yes,
Tom Bommel.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, good job, Justin. So that will go out. Thank you, everyone, for the vote. We'll move on to the next agenda item.
All right, let me pull it up.
Sure.
Ugh.
Sometimes I guess and I'm wrong, so I
Yes. Oh, it's hold on, just 1 second.
I think the item, though, let me see if I'm right, Justin, is the congressional request letters that came in.
That's correct.
Yes,
I'm
I,
looking at my agenda.
I can talk about that a little bit. So,
Okay, go ahead.
we had a request from Congresswoman Trahan to, provide a letter of support for 4 projects, which she is looking to earmark in a federal bill. So it involves, projects that are on our tip, and one of the requirements for the earmarking program is that the project has to be listed on a tip. So the projects that she was looking for support on are the Boston Road project in Westford, the VFW highway improvements, and then there are 2 LRTA projects. One is for a refueling station at the Hale Street Maintenance Facility, and the other is for the purchase of a hybrid electric bus.
So basically, Brian and his team work directly with David on this because I've been chairing MPOs all this week. But so if I get anything wrong, Brian, correct me. But basically, we've been dealing with all the congressional requests working directly with their offices, because obviously they came in, there was a tight time frame, and some of the MPOs weren't going to meet before the deadline. So we basically drafted letters, which Brian's team will start getting out to the different MPOs tomorrow, basically saying we're, willing to program them with funding. It doesn't commit the MPO's money, ours, but it basically says it'll program it in our letters of support. And then basically each letter has lists all the projects in that congressional delegation request, whether it's just, so it's not just Northern Middlesex. If they were touched on other MPOs, it was the letters included those projects as well. So it's basically for each congressional region.
Okay, so in this case, these projects are already programmed, so we've left them as is on the tip.
And I think that's right? Correct, Brian?
It looks like Brian left, but that's correct.
Right.
And procedurally, because MassDOT chairs the MPO, but not only that, but also provides the local state match for these projects, the letter had to come from them, which is why our office worked to prepare letters of support for each of the Congress people that had asked for a write-off, a blessing, a recommendation from the MPOs themselves on which projects they wanted to see.
Do you know if, I assume that this particular congressional office has been in touch with MassDOT?
Yeah, we worked with each one of them. Our legislative office worked with David and Brian's team to do work on this. So, and like I said, Beverly, we have the letters, so Brian's team will start sending them out so you know what was actually submitted by Acting Secretary and CEO Tesler. But yeah.
So, my understanding of at least our Congresswoman's position on the Boston Road Westford project and the VFW Highway project is she's asking for a portion of the funding for the project with, I think, an expectation that the remaining funds will still come through our TIP process. So she's not entirely funding the project with her requests.
From what I understand, Beverly, we are silent on that, and basically just to commit to put it, programming it. I'm sure as things go out, we get down the process, we're going to have these discussions, but our initial letter just were of support, but did not commit to any specific funding or anything like that. None of that was not addressed. It was general.
Okay, and will you be sharing those letters with us?
Yeah, Brian, I talked to Brian right before this, and because Dave and I had talked earlier, we'll get them out starting tomorrow. So, Derek will get it out to you guys in his regions. And so we're going to start that tomorrow.
Thank you.
So just out of my own burning curiosity here, if these are projects that are already on the tip, what is the difficulty in committing the funding?
So Beverly, I can't answer that question. I've not been involved. I was on vacation last week and came back to the 5 MPO meetings the last 2 days. So I have no idea. If you're curious, you should reach out to David because he was leading this for us. I honestly just don't know. I literally just went right into MPO meetings the last couple of days. And this is the only MPO that it came up. So.
Okay.
But he can talk to you about that rationale and stuff. I just can't. I just wasn't involved. So anything else people have on that? You'll be seeing the letters. Like I said, she'll still get them out to you tomorrow. Obviously, Justin, you can get out to the board members so they can see.
Yep.
All right. Anything else on this agenda item? All right. Being done, I think we're on to other business, right? Justin?
Other business, Steve.
Any other business that any MPO members have for the board? The only thing I have is Innovation Conference will be happening this year, late May. Registration is open, so you should go to the UMass Transportation Center website if you're interested to check it out. We're starting to put up the actual program and session, and the keynotes that are happening have already been up there, or most of them are up there. So check it out, and hopefully we'll see you in late May for that.
Derek.
Thanks, Justin. The MassDOT Shared Streets and Spaces Grant Program has a new round of funds available for municipalities and RTAs to apply for. I just shared a link in the chat field if any municipalities are interested. There's a May 21st application deadline and more information at the link about the types of projects and also a new feature, bonus points awarded for different types of projects. I believe this round has a priority on projects that promote safer facilities. So just FYI.
And I'll send out that notice to the NPO distribution list. It's on my agenda. Chris?
Thanks, Justin. And I just want to mention real quick, you might already have heard, I think it's been going around, but the USDOT has announced their new sort of RAISE grant notice funding opportunity. So through Building American Infrastructure and Sustainability and Equity, which is the Build Tiger grant, kind of next generation of that program. I'll also include a link in the chat where you can find more information, but there are a series of webinars coming up that will kind of go through the application process if there are questions there, but there's a lot more information at that website in terms of eligibility. Information, but if you have any questions on that, happy to chat.
All right, any other business? All right, seeing none, I think we're on adjournment. Can I get a motion and a second to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed, any abstentions? All right, thank you, everyone. Thanks for getting the tip out today. We will see you back in May, which will be critical because the tip will be back for endorsement or consideration for endorsement, and the UPWP document is likely going to be ready, as Justin said. So please try to make sure you can make it. We have a quorum, and stay safe, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Bye, everyone.